Now we will start our first class in culture. The meaning of culture, the aspects of the culture, what definitions, what are the dimensions, what are the things affecting the culture, and what are the culture affecting, what are the culture affected by. All this will handle on this chapter, and we will talk in details about it. So let me go for sharing the screen first. Then after that, we'll move on to the next point. We'll share the screen. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. We'll check now. Chapter 1 is here already. Yeah. So the culture definition is the United Nations agency, UNESCO, had defined the culture as a set of distinctive spiritual, material, intellectual, and the emotional features of a society or a group of people, and that it encompasses, in addition to arts and literature, lifestyle, way of living together, value system, traditions, and beliefs. So all this comes to the meaning of culture. The meaning of culture is including all these aspects. So one of the aspects of the culture definition also is defined as the complex, like here, the complex whole of a society. This can include everything that gives a society its identity. So you will give the society its identity from its own culture. Five basic characteristics that are all cultures have. This is very important. There are five basic characteristics which all the cultures have. Let me enlarge the lines, like the bonds, just a little bit, so that will be clear for everyone. So we are saying that there are five characteristics that all cultures share in learned or learned, that the culture is learned, that we learn the culture. And shared is shared by a group of people. All this group of people are talking, having the same culture, like a distinct area or a zone or whatever. Symbolic, and symbolic means there are symbols in it. Symbols, like the nations, the traditions of every nation is different than the other, right? Integrated means it's completing each other. The parts of the culture is completing each other, is not opposed to each other. It complete, like no, there is a consistency. There is consistency. There is kind of non of harmony between the parts of the culture. And dynamic. Dynamic means it's not a statistic. It's not like the statue. No, it's like, while, because it's dealing with humans, because it's touching the human mankind, that's why it is a dynamic. As long as there is a social factor there, then that means that it's a dynamic. Okay. Let's go now to what we call the culture identity. Culture identity. What is the culture identity? Is the identity of feeling of belonging to a group of people. That is the first point. Okay. So cultural identity is the identity of feeling belonging to a group of people. It is a part of person's self-conception. That's fine. And self-perception. That's another good. Okay. And it is related to nationality, ethnicity, religion, social class. So all these things are encompasses in the meaning of the culture, and generation, locality, and or any kind of social groups that has own distinct cultures. If we say as example, the culture of the Arab countries, my back home as example, we have that as example, we have like the welcoming the guest is very important for us to welcome guests. So this is a part, like all are having the same distinct culture. uh, so those what we mean by the culture norms and the culture. So let's go to the ethnic identity. We said we have identities for the culture. The first one of them is the ethnic identity. It is defined as a sense of belonging. based on one's ancestry, cultural heritage, values, traditions, rituals, and often language and religion. Ethnicity identity is thus composed of more or less connected facts that can vary across immigrants groups and across situations. So those are the ethnic identity, which is the characteristics which are together in one group and distinct them from other groups. It's not in the other groups as well. So, how are culture and identity related? How they are related? How they are different from one another? Are they different or are they the same? Culture is part and a parcel of all that we do. This is very important things. So you are governed by culture. You are governed, your behavior is governed by the culture. All that we are, all we can and might become. It's fine. Culture is the way of life, and this is very important, of a group of people. So what is right, what's wrong, what you have to do, what you have not to do, what you ought to do, all this comes to the definition of the culture. Social life happens to be structured in a particular way. Identity means know who you are. So, who you are, is this your identity? And this is very clear to everyone. Okay. So, now the self identity is composed of or is composed of relatively permanent self assessment, such as personality, your attributes, your attitudes, your knowledge, your skills, and your occupation. This makes your self identity who you are, by other meaning, who you are, and hobbies, awareness, of course, and in the same time, I began to explain the differences between materials and non material culture. So now we will go to explain what is the material culture and what is the non-material culture. So the self-identity include all this: your occupation, your personality, your attributes, your attitudes, your knowledge, your values, your skills. All this is self-identity. All this self-identity. Okay. Uh, Culture also, as it said, is the way of life of a group of people. Social life happens to be structured in a particular. Identity means knowing who you are, as we said. That's fine. Another definition for culture, as long as we are talking about the definitions of culture today, is the combination of values. So this is the values now, beliefs of the society, belief or beliefs, and practices of a particular group. See, take an examples of the whole world and the whole nations. Every group of people are having kinds of practices, which is different than the other areas or another zones or another. Even in the same country, people are different in their practices, in their sometimes you find as a religion, you find more than one religion in one country. Everyone is having all every uh, religious people are following rituals and having their own uh, practical for the group that they are not done by other groups. So that's the way. So cultural identity of feeling belonging to a group. This is the identity, the meaning of the cultural identity also is the feeling or belonging to a group. It is part of person's self-conception and self-perception and is related to nationality, ethnicity, religion, social class, generation, locality, or any kind of social groups that has its own distinct culture. So this is what we mean by culture identity. So we have many definitions now for the word culture and many definitions for the word culture identity. Let's move on forward to another idiom or another terminology today, which is called cultural diversity. And know what do we mean by the cultural diversity? Do you think there is a cultural diversity? A country like Canada here, of course, there is a cultural diversity because you'll find people from all over the world. Some countries like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Qatar and United Arab Emirates, they have cultural diversity because people are working there from everywhere in the world. So this is the meaning. Is important? Is it important? Yes, of course. The cultural diversity is very important. Yeah, because it's important because our country, workplaces, and schools increasingly consist of various cultures. And this is true today, nowadays, especially in the globalization time, the whole world became like a small village. So there's nothing is closed now. The whole world is connected to each other. Yeah. So, and ethnic groups, we can learn from one another. Yeah, I can take positive things of your culture, and you can take a positive things of my culture as well. So, but we first have a level of understanding about each other in order to facilitate collaboration and cooperation. So we have to know at least a of points, minimum of points about the culture of each other. Then we will acquire it. We will take from it what we can and what we cannot. Like we cannot do anything in it. Like as example for the Muslims, they don't eat pork, so they live in the societies where people can eat pork, but they don't eat it. They can eat beef. For the Jewish, the same thing. There is kosher for the Jewish, and for the Muslim, there is halal. So halal. So this is a partially culture. I mean, it is a culture within a group of other diversity of cultures, but they accept or the partial cultures accept what they want or what is going on matching with them with their own origin culture, and they do not accept the rest. This is another point. Okay, cultural, and the same thing for all over the world. Even in one country, from the south and the north, east and west, there are a lot of differences, and you will see this even in the United States when we talk about the north and the south. South means rural areas of agriculture, cultivation, harvesting. Most of the people are countryside, but on the north, education and factories and technology. So everyone is having his custom, and the cultures also is different from a place to a place on the same country. People who are living by the coasts, by the seashore, are different than the people who are sitting on cities in cities where there are no shores, no rivers. So those people are having habits and having cultures. Partially, it's a different than them, than the others. They are partially different than each other. What do we mean by the cultural influence? What the meaning of culture influence? Culture influence means historical, geographical, geographical, and familial factors that affect assessment and intervention process. There are three general sources of influences or pressure that are responsible for both change and resistance to it. Now we'll talk about the resistance of change, and this is a very important point. Within a society, process leading to change include invention and culture loss. So, culture invention and culture loss, maybe either technological or ideological. So, the effect on the culture maybe it will come through the technology or through the ideologies, through the ideas of people and through the ideas of group or through new ideas. But what I want to say here is that there is a resistance of a change is always existing, is always existing. For you, as example, if I come and tell you something you are not familiar with or you didn't hear about before, of course you will refuse to do it. Or you might think slowly and see whether this match with your culture or with your attitudes or with your habits or no. In that case, that's what we say. Is it matching or not matching your own origin culture? That's why. How is culture influenced? Let's go to this now. One factor that influences culture can be national identity. The national identity, the experiences of a group of people on the level of one's nations can play a large role in determining culture. For example, American culture or Indian culture. Another element that can help to determine culture is the language. So, language is a very important part of the culture identity, the language, and that's true. Uh, Now we'll go to another part which is called culture transform. The culture transformation is shift that can take place throughout an entire organization or individuals, departments and teams or whatever. Transformation means what? Like changing, switching. Is therefore a process whereby over time people behave differently. So the transformation means that the people will have or behave differently. They will do a behave which is different, slightly or deeply different than what they used to do before in 2, 3 decades before. Okay? Uh, People's behavior will change on the long run, and their culture sometimes is change on the long run. Okay. Organization benefits in the same fashion as results. Okay. And this is another point. Culture can also change in certain situations. New philosophical ideas, technological advances can lead to culture change. And that's what we said. Technology can change the culture. Ideologies can change the culture. So the culture, maybe on the short run, is just constant. But when it comes to the issue of the long run, of course, it might be affected by a lot of variables there to affect it. Cultural change can also occur through diffusion, and we'll see what the meaning of diffusion now, when contact with other cultures. See that? When our culture contact with other cultures, it might be changed, okay? It might be changed. It might accept things from those other cultures or give other cultures some of our own aspects or some of the characteristics of my own culture. And ideas are transferred as well. There are three general sources of influences or pressure that are responsible for change and resistance to it within a society. The, Within a society, process leading to change include invention, like we said before, and cultural loss. So invention and culture loss. Invention may be either technological or ideological. So invention might be both of them. It might be it might be like ideological or technological. Of course, the world is changing now, and the culture is changing. I remember when I was in the age of 20, time was not very punctual for us to this limit, like we can say afternoon after sunrise like this. But now everything is calculated with paper and pen and very digit. Like I will wait for you to come to me in between 6:20 and 6:30. So things are different because the life stress itself, the life stress and the pressure of the life is increasing. So a parts of the culture will increase will change due to the circumstances around you. Also the technological aspects and the new face appearance of the technologies and the new applications. Of course, the culture is changing, but it takes long time to change. It takes long time to change. What about culturally acceptable or appropriation? Considered harmful by various groups and individuals, including indigenous people working for culture preservation, those who advocate for collective intellectual property rights of the or originating minority cultures, and those who have lived or living under colonial rule. We will have a part about the indigenous people. We will have a part about it. Those like in the United States and in Canada. So we will talk about it furthermore in details. How does culture affect change? Now we said that the culture can be changed, but how can be? Culture can also change in certain situations. New philosophical ideas and technological advances can lead to culture change. That's what we said again. The philosophical or ideological ideas can change the culture. Cultural change also occur through diffusion when contact with other cultures, and this is repeated. And I think the frequency when we repeat, this will be good for you guys. Importance of cultural change. Culture is automatically changing in the society. Look at this, automatically changing in the society. However, changing of the culture, values, and beliefs within the passage of time is important. So it's important that the culture will not be always constant in the society because in this way, the environment can be shaped in the better way. Yeah, in the humanity, all the humanity, the world is moving into better. Always, it's moving into better. It never goes backward. No. I was just watching a video yesterday about uh, the people sometimes feeling like, oh, the COVID-19 and this and that. But watch out what the World War One and the World War Two did in the whole world. 20 millions and 60 millions in World War Two were killed. Now, even if there is epidemic, but it's not its effect is not to that limit. So the world is moving to a better way of living. That's right. People can get the understanding about the modernization within the society. Process leading to change include invention, like we said before, and culture loss. Um, like we said before, let me stop here a minute. We'll go now to another part which is very important, how our cultures sustained, how our cultures sustained this. So, or how we stand still, keep it, keep it from a generation to, though it's changing, but it's a partial changing, but it's not totally changing. However, it's still the same, stand still the same, or be constant on the short run. But we said that the inventions and the technology affect the culture. Local cultures are sustained through customs, the habits, the values, the traditions, like that. Okay. Local cultures usually work to avoid cultural appropriation, the process by which others' cultures adopt customs and knowledge and use for their benefits. Members of a local cultures usually have an easier time maintaining their own cultures because of their isolation. Um, Organizational culture as well are created by a variety of factors, including founders, values, preferences, industry demands, and early values, goals, and assumptions. So all those now are the culture, how people in one group keep one culture, identity culture in between them. It's not even a matter of the culture of the whole country. It's like even inside an organization, like we say organizational culture. So if in one organization people are used to come early to work, it becomes a culture of this organization. When people love each other in a place and they are very happy and there is sympathy between them, then this is the culture of the place. Okay. Culture is transmitted to employees in a number of ways. The most significant are stories, rituals, symbols. It's not even for the employees only, but it's also even for the between nations, in between the same people of the same nation. It goes by this, like the stories, the rituals, the quotes, the proverbs, the expressions. Example awards to employees are founders, like gold medals given to students on graduation day and reflection of cultures of the institutions. So here we talk about what is the meaning of culture. We talk what the meaning of the culture diffusion. We talk about culture transformation. We talk about the change. We talk about the components of culture, values, belief, customs, norms. Uh, we talk about every group is having a distinct culture. We talk about the culture even in the organization inside the business. They have their own culture. They have. We talk about the culture identity. Thank you so much. Thank you.